person ought to go to college. Ought to be the opportunity. But I see plenty of opportunities today where in manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, they're looking for people who would come through a trade program, a career center, dedicated yesterday at Monroe Community College, a brand new, spanking, beautiful, well-equipped career technology center. Amazing what can be prepared there as a person going in and getting the resources available to take a job that may not require a four-year education. Certainly require lifelong education. That's what we're all about, right? That's why we're here tonight. This is part of education as we participate. But I think we ought to make it very apparent that the opportunity is there. What will it take for you to be educated? Dan Kildee, Democrat, and myself, I sponsored a bill and asked him to be my prime co-sponsor in expanding the Coverdale, a student grant program, or student savings program. It makes all good sense to give incentives for families to save and give tax advantages to save for their children's education. It wasn't realistic the way it's set up now. Dan and I want to expand that opportunity, to make it a greater incentive for people to do that. But that also could be used for career education as well. So I think we go that direction. We want to always instill in people's minds and hearts the desire to serve. We also want them to work. And in a great country like ours, there ought to be that opportunity for everyone, as long as they're able. And when they aren't, there'll be plenty of us to pick up the slack and help them along.
Kev, there's a number of questions here about transportation, roads, infrastructure. How does, what's your view on what we're doing in Washtenaw County to maintain, improve, expand?
Well, we're trying. We're doing what we can. The roads in Washtenaw County generally get pass-through funds from the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan sends us our budgets, and we do what we can with that. Here in the city of Chelsea, when I was on the Chelsea City Council, we put a little additional extra millage on for some of the roads. So in Chelsea, they're a little bit better than some of the out-of-county. But at a local level, we're trying with what we can do. And we keep looking for different ways of cost savings and solutions. And, every day we're trying to do what we can. I'll pass it on to the state and see if the state can give us any help.
Okay, so transportation is actually probably a lot of you know that we've been talking about that in Lansing for a long time, since the early 2000s. We identified that we didn't have enough money to fund the transportation system back in 2008 when Pam Burns was a representative here, and she was trying to develop some bipartisan legislation to more fully fund transportation. One of the problems we have in the state is that we have a flat tax rate for transportation funding. So as the miles per gallon increase, so as your car gets more miles per gallon, the state gets less revenue. So that's a pretty problematic situation. We're currently taking in what we used to take in back in the early 2000s. So I am on the transportation committee. We've spent since January a lot of time looking at different alternatives. And the governor addressed, actually when he first started as governor, identified transportation as a #1 priority. It's an economic development issue. One of the reasons I was at the rail conference today is we are the #1 trade corridor between Canada and Michigan and the Detroit, across the Detroit River. And our infrastructure is not sufficient for the future economy that will be coming through the state. There's great opportunities in the state for agriculture, as we have all the water. Did I mention that before? We have a lot of water, and some of you are probably watching what's going around the rest of the country with droughts, fire, just a lot of contributing factors, and the projections are that our ag industry has huge potential. We don't have the infrastructure to support it. So the governor has looked for funding for the transportation system, and there's some conversation. We don't have an agreement yet on how we will increase funding. He asked for $1.2 billion 2 years ago. It's now between 1.4 to 1.6 billion. Our budget is a little bit over $3.5 billion. So it's a significant increase, and it's been a problem for a long time. So the longer we wait, it's sort of like if you have a house and you don't fix your roof and it has water that comes in and it goes in the drywall, and we have the same problem in our transportation system because we aren't able to fully fund it. So some of the townships, as some of you that live in townships, I get a lot of complaints from people that live in townships, especially North Territorial. That's a big problem, that road. I know Webster Township and Northfield Township are really frustrated with North Territorial. Salem Township is actually putting money up to pay for their portion of North Territorial with the idea that once the transportation revenues increase, the road commission will pay back the Salem Township. So it's a very complicated, it's a very frustrating issue, and hopefully we'll be making some momentum on that.
Tim, there's 3 questions here that are sort of focused.
Could I respond to that one?
Oh, please, absolutely.
You went from the local to the state to the federal.
I'm sorry.
I would like to get the point across that when you receive 93 cents on the dollar back from what you send to Washington for transportation issues, that's not enough. We ought to have our dollar. In fact, probably we shouldn't be sending that in the first place. And so to have a comprehensive tax reform at the federal level that spreads the burden and gives everybody an opportunity for skin in the game, and gives relief to many of you who are probably paying more than your fair share, even those of us in the room today, and spreads it, and then gives the ability for those dollars to be more readily available at the local and state level as our local officials and our state officials wrestle with how in the world we provide the infrastructure that's necessary for a growing economy and a growing society. That'd be helpful. Secondly, we need a sound energy plan, an all of the above energy plan, to promote a artificial scarcity that, as you said, Representative, to be pushing for more environmentally sound, economically positive use of our resources. That's a good thing. But if then that restricts the dollars necessary to provide that infrastructure, that's a problem. We have resources that are available to us, Keystone Pipeline being one of those, that could add significantly. We want to have civil discourse here.